Okay, welcome to the second video in the overview of the Preparing for the Academic Job Market workshop. Again, this is a workshop talk through, so I'll walk you through what we covered in the live workshop. And of course, if you have questions, you can certainly reach out to us after you've watched the videos. So in this next video, we're going to go over a few general writing strategies. The first video talked about thinking strategies, ways to kind of get your mind around what's happening on the academic job market, what advice you want to follow, what advice you want to reject, and just freeing up some of your cognitive resources to focus on writing impactful statements. So in this second video, we're going to talk about some writing strategies that will make your statements clear and impactful. The first strategy is to start with visualizing your reader with empathy in mind. So I'm going to walk you through an exercise that I hope will help you think about visualizing your reader. Let me first say what's important about this step is that all writing exists to be read, and all writing has a responsibility to connect with and think about the reader. You don't write for yourself, you write for a reader. And especially with these statements, you're writing for a group of readers that you've never met before. So you want to be extra mindful of making sure that you're thinking about your reader as you are writing your documents. But let's first pause and think about what that means. So I want you to imagine your workload right now. What have you got going on? Are you TAing? Are you teaching? Are you engaged with lab work or research work all the time? What kind of writing projects do you have in your life right now? Do you have writing projects that are sitting on the back burner that you keep meaning to get to, but it just keeps not happening? How many emails do you get in a day? What kind of meetings do you have in a day, in a week, in a month? Just think about your current workload. What are you doing? I bet it's a lot. Okay, now I want you to imagine that you, for some reason that you cannot remember, signed up to be on your department's graduate admissions committee, meaning you're part of a committee that has to read, rank, and score and make decisions about who will be admitted into the graduate program in your department. Again, you can't remember why you signed up for this, but you're signed up for this. So, considering your workload, what you've got going on, imagine you had to find time to read, evaluate, and rank 300 graduate student applications. 300. When would you do it? When exactly would you find time to read, evaluate, and rank 300 graduate student applications, which would entail, of course, a statement of purpose, a resume or CV, transcript, probably a diversity statement, at minimum those things, and a writing sample. Oh yeah, let's not forget the writing sample. When would you do that for 300 applicants? My guess is that you would have to shove some important things from your agenda, take it out of your calendar, delay some of those important things in order to make room. And if you couldn't do that, say for your teaching responsibilities, you would end up reading and evaluating these things in the margins of your schedule. After you got home at night, maybe on the weekends here and there, maybe you just take like several days and block off anything that might interfere and you kind of binge yourself into these graduate student applications. I don't know, but just think about that. And now think about under those circumstances where you're reading these things at night after you've put your kids to sleep or after you've cleaned up your kitchen from making dinner, or on the weekend when you'd rather just be going to the farmer's market or watching Netflix. Imagine you're reading these application materials then. What would you hope for? What would make it important? What would be important for you to see under those circumstances? You would probably want to see statements that were clear, got to the point, were written with a sort of clear word choice, not a lot of jargon. You might want to see statements that were well organized, easy to follow. That's sort of what I'm getting at. What would you want to see in the writing that would help you as a reader, a busy, tired reader, see the thing that you are hoping to look for, hoping to find in these applicant packets? And be informed by that. Be informed by the principles that you would hope to see in these statements, because this is a very analogous scenario to what the faculty and others of the search committee are going through when they're reading academic portfolios. They have a busy life. They have kids. Maybe they have other work responsibilities. They have a life outside of work that they're trying to attend to and keep healthy. They're trying to exercise. They're trying to spend not too much time commuting because commuting makes them cranky. They're trying to live. They're trying to get their work done. And now they're on this academic search committee. They probably can't remember why they signed up for this. And here they are in the same situation that you imagined yourself being in just a moment ago. And so this leads us to our third strategy of this workshop. Try to visualize the life circumstances of your reader and make empathetic writing choices accordingly. I want to emphasize that the takeaway of this strategy is not, be careful, oh no, they're only going to spend 5 minutes looking at your packet. You'll see that advice in a lot of different places, that they'll spend 30 seconds looking at your CV, or they'll spend 2 minutes reading your teaching statement. Who cares? You would probably be in the same situation and make that same choice if you had that stack of 300 grad applications. That's not exactly the takeaway I want you to remember. I want you to remember, if you were in their shoes, what would you hope for? What would make the statements easier to read, easier to follow, so that you wouldn't have to dig through the writing to find what was useful about it? It would stand out to you quickly and easily. Make empathetic writing choices based on trying to imagine your reader and their experiences. So what I'm arguing is not just that you should think about your reader and think about what your reader needs and what they expect. In fact, thinking too much about what your reader expects can get you into that space of being performative and bending yourself a little too much. Instead, try to imagine you have a tired, busy reader. How are you going to make reading your statement easy and maybe even fun for them? And you want to make empathetic writing choices related to that. Don't get caught up in the fear that they won't spend a lot of time reading it. That's okay. If you write something that's well organized and clear and easy to follow, they don't need to spend a lot of time reading it. They'll get everything that's important about it pretty quickly. And that's what you can control as a writer. So here's what I think you're trying to do when writing statements with a kind of empathetic mindset towards your reader. You want to write a statement that is authentic and wastes no time showing what you think and how you fit. So I'll say that again. A statement that is authentic, that wastes no time showing what you think and how you fit. By authentic, I mean it's true to you. It feels right. It feels accurate to your experiences, and you're proud of what it says about you and the person it's showing you to be. It wastes no time means that what you want to articulate is put right up front, it's made very clear, and it's signaled very easily for your reader. I'll show you a trick for that in just a moment. By showing what you think and how you fit, you want to combine these. And I think what's challenging when you're working on job market materials is it's really easy to forget that you're trying to show what you think. And it's overly easy to think about, I need to make myself into the person they want. I don't know exactly who they want, but I'm just going to be that person anyway. Remember, it's about striking a balance. You want to strike the balance between signaling your fit for a particular position in a particular department, as well as showing that you have a kind of authentic sense of yourself and what you think. And it's actually through that authentic self that you will show your fit, not in a kind of performativity of showing them that you recognize what they need. And so you want to get the balance right between these two things. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Okay, so how do you actually do this? How do you write authentic statements that waste no time, showing what you think and how you fit? Actually, you already know how to do this. That's actually a hidden trick, that you already have the writing skills you need. You just need to learn to apply them to this new rhetorical situation. So I'm going to overview 5 writing skills that I know you already have, and we're going to talk about how to apply them to this situation. And those are: know your argument, provide evidence for your argument, make the logic of your argument easy to follow, make the words easy to read, and be explicit rather than implicit. You don't want to hope your reader guesses or infers what's important about what you're saying. You just want to say it. So I'll talk about each of these things in the next set of slides, but I want to reemphasize you know how to do this. You have written a lot of materials in your life as an academic so far. So you know that especially when you're working on perhaps a research article, you have to know what your article is trying to argue. You know you have to provide evidence for what you're trying to argue. You know the logic has to be clear. People need to be able to follow how you arrive to your argument. You know that the words can't be too overloaded with jargon or that they can't be too lofty and abstracted from the points you're trying to make. And you know that for the stuff that really matters, the things that you really need to make sure you say because you need to make sure your reader sees it, you know you just have to say that rather than hoping they'll figure it out by reading in between the lines. You know how to do this already. Now let's talk about how to apply it to this particular rhetorical situation. So the first is defining your arguments. Here I've articulated basically your meta argument that you're trying to argue in each particular statement. But notice that each argument is incomplete. They all have this ellipsis. It trails off. And so you have to complete this argument. You have to finish the phrase after because. So with your teaching statement, you're effectively trying to argue that you will be an effective teacher for this department because, and again, fill in the because. Why do you think you will be an effective teacher for this department? In the diversity statement, you are trying to argue that I am ready and able to advance your efforts for equity and inclusion because, and again, complete that. What makes you ready? What makes you able to advance their efforts for equity and inclusion in their department or on their campus? In your research statement, you are arguing my research trajectory, including your future research, will contribute to your department because, and again, complete that phrase. And in your cover letter, here's how I align with the kind of faculty member you're looking for. And you would list your main parts of that argument. In the companion worksheet to this workshop, we have some prompts for you to start thinking about what those three themes might be, or what those three ideas to complete each of these arguments might be. So you can just start thinking about that. And the reason why we advocate for 3 is because the items that you choose to complete the arguments become broader themes that also act as organizing ideas for the statement itself. So, for example, and again, remember there's space in the worksheet to start brainstorming on your own. The teaching statement, you might say that your argument is, I will be an effective teacher for your department because I pursue and prioritize, and maybe these are the 3 items that you want to choose to emphasize in your teaching statement. You prioritize asynchronous learning opportunities, student-directed grading practices, and learning activities beyond the classroom. So these 3 themes not only complete this argument and make it a whole argument, they also become the basis for the rest of the teaching statement. Because theme 1, asynchronous learning opportunities, that gets elaborated in the second paragraph. Student-directed grading practices might get elaborated in the second or third paragraph. The learning activities beyond the classroom theme gets elaborated in the 4th or 5th paragraph. And then it all gets summed up again in the conclusion paragraph. So you're not only defining your argument here by deciding these 3 themes, you're also giving yourself an outline. You're giving yourself a structure to fill in. Say, for example, you want to think about the research statement. And sorry, the formatting on this slide got a little weird. So your research statement, my research will contribute to your department because my research trajectory, and here's 3 themes, explores a timely human issue, which you're signaling you have publication potential with that, advances a foundational theoretical area of the discipline, or can create opportunities for students to engage in research. So again, same idea, by articulating 3 areas that complete this argument, you're also giving yourself an outline and a structure for the rest of the research statement. So how do you decide on the themes? How do you decide on what these three things should be? This is where you want to strike that balance between what you think and how you would fit. And so, first, I would suggest think about these things for yourself. If you are applying to a job that had no requirements or that it was like the ideal and perfect job for you, what would be the kinds of themes that you could articulate in your statement for that perfect ideal job? And then reality check, you're going to have to apply for jobs that are maybe not perfect for you, and that's okay. So start looking at the job call, the job ad, start looking at their department, at their institutional culture, and just get a sense of what faculty in this institution, in this department, seem to value, what they have to navigate, what they seem to be interested in, what kinds of opportunities they're trying to create for students and for themselves. And then you want to just try to find a balance between articulating things that you actually think and articulating things that this audience would find relevant and interesting. And again, the emphasis there is on balance. You don't want to necessarily try to be overly subservient to the audience and your sense of their interests, because again, you don't really know your audience. You know a few important things about them, but you don't know exactly what they think. So you want to get that balance right. Do your best to get a sense of who is my audience and what do they care about? But then also ask that question of yourself, what do I care about? And then choose your three themes by trying to strike a balance between what you think and some sense of your authentic ideas, as well as what it seems would be relevant for that particular audience in this particular institution. As I mentioned previously, the themes that you articulate at the beginning that complete your argument become the organizing basis and the logic for the rest of the statement. So then in the body paragraphs of the statement, you take each of those themes and you ground them in specific experiences and things that you've done, experiences that you've had, ideas that you're exploring that unpack and kind of provide some tangible detail for that theme. Sometimes this is called showing, not just telling. So in this, you would be able to show significance through specifics. So say, for example, you wanted to emphasize in your teaching statement that you've built asynchronous learning opportunities. You would need to explain why you think that is important. What is it about asynchronous learning opportunities that's valuable? Then you would need to unpack that significance through specifics. So you would think about in your TA section, if you had to design asynchronous learning experiences, what you did, what was the outcome of that? How did your experience and your actions show the significance that you think is really important to highlight? So you want to talk not just about the theme, but talk about why that theme matters to teaching, to education, to your approach, then unpack that significance through going through some specifics from your experiences, and then again, re-highlighting the significance and value and importance of that theme. And then you just do this paragraph by paragraph. As you work through the statement, as you work through each theme, you try to signal the significance and you unpack that significance through specifics. And our two final writing strategies. The first is just say it. So you should remember that if you hope or expect your reader to guess, they probably won't. Or if they do, they will do so incorrectly. So if you're hoping that they see something that you are not saying outright, you are hoping in vain because they're tired, they're busy, they're not taking the time to read between the lines of your statement. So you want to ask yourself as you're writing, what am I trying to say? What do I hope my reader gets out of this paragraph? And am I saying that clearly? Am I saying that explicitly, or am I hoping that they'll figure it out? If you're not sure how to word something, try answering out loud, what am I trying to say? I do think you should try this. You can talk to your pet or your plant or talk to a picture hanging on your wall, but ask yourself, what am I trying to say? And then look to your plant and say it. Here, plant, is what I'm trying to say. And when you are able to articulate what you're trying to say to your plant, write that down. I think sometimes we get overly confused by the kind of voice and tone we're supposed to strike. And because we want to appear confident, because we want to appear knowledgeable, we'll overload the text, we'll overload the writing with a lot of words that really don't get to what we're trying to say, and we're really not being very clear. So remember, if you don't know how to say something, just ask yourself and then say to your plant, here's what I'm trying to say. Blah, then just say it. And then write that down. This brings me to my last point, that clear should be prioritized before clever. In these statements, you don't need to show that you are super knowledgeable, that you're super hip, that you are the best teacher that has ever existed, or you're the smartest researcher that has ever been born into this field. That's a lot to ask of a 1 to 2 page document. And so remember, your task isn't to do that kind of performance. It's to show that what you think and how you fit in an authentic statement that wastes no time. Remember, your reader is tired. They have a whole life to lead outside of reading your statement. And remember that you want to have this balance of authenticity and remembering how you fit. So use word choices that are prioritizing clarity rather than cleverness or another kind of performativity that you might be trying to strike. Emphasize clear, impactful prose that wastes no time. And when you're thinking about writing in research terms, or if you're writing about your research area, my suggestion is to write in the vernacular of your discipline and nothing more. So if you are in a very specialized field in your discipline, remember, folks on the search committee might not be in that very specialized field. They might be really different, be in a different kind of subfield. So think about, what are the kinds of language and phrases that anybody from my field, broad field, will know? What is the vernacular language that we all speak in? And then don't go any more detailed or more jargony than that. Speak in the vernacular of your discipline, nothing more specialized. Okay, at this point, you can look at the example statement that goes alongside this video. But before you look at that statement, I just want to say a couple of things. First is that this is a real statement written by a real graduate student. This is real. Somebody actually wrote this. And so before you download that statement or before you look at it, I want you to get yourself in the right mindset that this could just as easily be your teaching statement. And how would you want someone to react to it if it was yours? Your task when you're reading this example is not to tear this thing to shreds or to find things to critique. In fact, your task is quite the opposite. It's to figure out what's working well in this draft. What's working well as a reader? What are you drawn to? What is exciting you? What feels good when you're reading it? Pay attention when you're reading the sample statement, because your experience as a reader when you're looking at this statement is actually quite analogous to the experience your reader will have on the search committee reading your statement, meaning they don't know you. They don't know anything about what you're about. Maybe they've looked at your CV, maybe not, because you don't know what order they're going to read these statements in. And so pay attention to what it's like to be a reader of this document. Take notes on your experiences as a reader and try to distill writing principles from them. So in the document, you'll find the first sample, which is a rough draft. As you're reading, just pay attention to your experience as a reader. What do you notice? What's standing out to you? What questions do you still have? After you read through that, read the second sample, which is the revised draft of the same statement. What do you notice? What do you notice is different about it? How does it feel to read the revised draft versus the prior version? And in both versions of the draft, start thinking about writing principles that you might derive from this sample from your experience as a reader. So translate your experience as a reader into some principles and ideas and guidelines for you to follow as a writer. Do that translation work. It will pay off a lot, I promise. So at this point, take a look at that statement, the rough draft first, then the revised draft, and then you can proceed to video 3.